The decision by many Pacific states to vote against a UN resolution for a ceasefire in the Gaza conflict has been called hypocritical. Pacific human rights advocates, academics and political figures are claiming its actions of being complicit to genocide. Israel argued that any ceasefire would give Hamas time to rearm and attack Israel again, following the massacre of at least 1,400 Israeli citizens, most of them civilians, on October 7th. More than 220 were taken hostage. Fiji was among 5 other Pacific states that voted against adopting the United Nations resolution for the protection of civilians and upholding legal and humanitarian obligations. The vote resulted in 120 nations, including New Zealand, Solomon Islands, voting in favour. However, the majority of Pacific states voted against it, siding with the United States, Israel and United Kingdom, as Alicia Foon reports.
Fiji, Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, Nauru and Tonga voted against the UN resolution for a ceasefire to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. The death toll among Palestinians has passed 8,000. They are mostly women and children, and more than 1.4 million people in Gaza have fled their homes. A Papua New Guinea lawyer, Dr. Balkama, says it's a hypocrisy and one that will haunt the Pacific.
For the Pacific to now turn around and vote no on a clear resolution that calls for humanitarian obligations to be exercised, it is a uttermost hypocrisy and something that will taint Pacific going forward in terms of our demand for global humanitarian intervention in our causes.
While Australia, Kiribati, Palau, Tuvalu, Vanuatu abstained from voting, Samoa remained silent in the vote. But New Zealand and Solomon Islands voted in favour of a ceasefire, something former Prime Minister and Fiji First Leader Frank Bainimarama wished Fiji had done.
We need to have a ceasefire so we stop this unnecessary killing for once. And of course, the ceasefire is to allow humanitarian aid into the area.
Fiji Council of Social Services CEO Vani Datanasinghe says voting against a ceasefire is to support genocide in Gaza.
And that's not to water down that Israel has also been impacted, but it's also to acknowledge that there must be a ceasefire in order for civilians to be protected.
Frank Bainimarama says Fiji's vote at the United Nations in favour of war contradicts the nation's long-standing legacy as peacekeepers. The former Prime Minister says he does not take sides, but was for a solution to save thousands of innocent people, including women and children. Earlier this month, Fiji Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka called himself an apostle of peace and proposed the Pacific be a conflict-free peace zone.
Yes, he's been contradicting himself in the last 6 months. He keeps talking about ocean of peace here in the Pacific, but yet he allows this innocent killing and the war in the Middle East to continue.
A Fijian human rights advocate says Fiji's vote alongside other Pacific states against a UN resolution is shameful. She says they are calling on the Fijian government to rethink its position. Human rights advocate Shamima Ali has applied for a permit to protest in an organised march on November 16th, which is being reviewed by Fiji police.
The government does not speak for all the people in this country. That decision that the government took after calling for a ceasefire and then flip-flopping, and the least our government could have done was if they didn't want to abstain, rather than come out so shamefully and voting against a ceasefire where genocide is being committed.
Frank Bainimarama also fears how the Fiji government's decision will impact Fijian military troops stationed in the Middle East.
The other thing that we should be worried about, we have troops in the Middle East. They are stationed in Iraq, in Sinai, in Syria, in Golan, so they're spread all over the Middle East.
The Fiji government has been approached for comment.